transportation and communication improved in America, particularly the North began to rapidly expand westward into areas such as Ohio. This expansion benefited white farmers who could now move to the west for more land. However, as they expanded into territories such as Mexico, David Wilmot proposed an amendment which banned slavery from all territories acquired from Mexico. He believed that although the government could not end slavery where it already existed, they could prevent it from spreading and corrupting new areas. This bill, the Wilmot Proviso, was supported by Northern Democrats and Whigs. In 1848, radical New York Democrats and anti-slavery Whigs met in Buffalo, New York, discussed what they wished to do with the land in the West, and formed the Free Soil Party. The Free Soil Party formed a few beliefs such as opposition to slavery in the new territories, support for internal improvements, support for tariffs to improve revenue, and support for the Homestead Law. However, their biggest belief was particularly the opposition to slavery and plantations in the Western territories. The Northerners' feelings to slavery began back in 1844 with the Liberty Party. However, the Liberty Party's ideas were too radical, so the South would leave the Union before agreeing to their terms. Therefore, although the Liberty Party was unsuccessful, its ideas served as the base of the Free Soil Party. The Free Soil Party feared that the white Northern farmers could not compete with the Southern slaveholders for land, and that the slave owners would take over the West politically. Their ideal community in the West was a small-scale, capitalistic community where white men have rights to own property, control their own land, and one in which a republic rule allowed the people to have a voice in their own government. They even came up with their own slogan: free soil, free speech, free labor, and free men. Beliefs such as these were known as popular sovereignty. Nonetheless, although the Free Soil Party was against slavery in the West, the majority of the members were not abolitionists, and in fact, some believed that African Americans were in fact inferior to whites. As Frederick Douglass once said, the cry of the free man was raised, not for the extension of liberty to the black man, but for the protection of the liberty of the white. This states their beliefs perfectly, because they did not want to prevent slavery for the blacks' rights, but merely for their own security. People like William Lloyd Garrison opposed these ideas because he believed them to be simple attempts of making the Western territories all white men, an idea also known as white manism. In the election of 1848, the Whig Party elected Zachary Taylor as their nominee for president, which did not go over well with many Northern Whigs, such as the ones in Ohio, because Taylor owned slaves. Although privately, Taylor opposed slavery in the West, he avoided this controversial topic in public. Therefore, many of the Ohio Whigs left for the Free Soil Party. The Free Soil Party then gained much influence in Ohio and used this influence to overturn most of Ohio's black laws. In this election, the Free Soil Party supported Martin Van Buren and Charles Francis Adams for president and vice presidents. However, they failed miserably, and Van Buren finished with just over 10% of the votes. However, the party stayed alive until the election of 1852, when their nominee, John Parker Hale, received less than 5% of the total votes. Although this was the end of the Free Soil Party, it is important to know that this was the beginning of the Republican Party, which still is around today.
The darkness is to keep us apart, and if the delight feels like it's a long way